What's up, everyone? I hope you are all doing well. It has been a long time since I've recorded a Magic video. I have been busy with a bunch of different projects, including a emergent game development company, which is something I didn't think I would ever actually do after the success of Path of Exile and Grinding Your Games. But a problem has presented itself in the gaming ecosystem, and my team and I are hard at work at solving that problem. So stay tuned for information about that. That's still a long ways off, but work is already well underway. We have an incredible dream team formed that includes some of the biggest heavy hitters from game development, both in this city and in other places. And I'm super excited about the project. But today I'm talking about Magic because something really topical happened a couple days ago. The Rules Committee for Commander finally decided to intervene in the madness of the format that they are entrusted with curating. And in their intervention, they dropped bans on two extremely consequential cards for 1v1. They also banned Nadu, the blue-green Simic flying thing that you could just basically slot as your commander into any deck. And if you had just a couple of things that could target for 0, you could just win the game on the spot from the command zone. So they banned that thing, which is obviously totally warranted. I know that it was starting to dominate probably both competitive tournaments and just casual group games everywhere, because no matter your skill level at the game, you can kind of figure out that if you can draw your whole deck and put it into play, you'll win. And it was simply just too easy for most people that I think were playing with that card. So they banned that card following the precedent established in a bunch of other formats. They also banned the Dockside Extortionist, which I have had in the past in this deck. Nate and I have talked about the card. It certainly is a wrecking ball in multiplayer, but in 1v1 I think the effect is not consistent enough to warrant its inclusion. We've never kept it in the deck because sometimes it just whiffs too often. In multiplayer, the card is totally bananas in that you can cast a 2-mana card and get 7-8 treasures very early on in the game, and totally warranted banning. And then we come to the two biggest offenders. There they are, Manac Crypt and Jeweled Lotus, and you'll notice they have this little hash marker around them online. This is the current build of at least my version of the Bullsat deck. Nate's version is a little bit different. He's running Ad Nauseam again up here. And I believe he also, he's running the Bombardier at 3 mana. I haven't played enough with the Bombardier to be convinced that it belongs in the deck. I think it's probably pretty good, but I just don't have the experience yet with it to know that it warrants inclusion. And I think instinctively that with both Crypt and Lotus dropping out of the format will slow down by default. And when it slows down, it actually tips kind of in the favor of cheaper cards, is what I've seen. When people don't have access to fast mana to do big things, cheaper cards start to matter more. So cards like Feed the Swarm come into play more often, as does Shieldred's Edict. Both of these cards were missing and are now back into the deck. And I'm not convinced that I really want Ad Nauseam in the deck, and I haven't played enough of the Bombardier to know. But either way, I want to talk about these two, Manac Crypt and Jeweled Lotus. So as we know, Manac Crypt has been in the Commander format since day one. I actually have experience with Manac Crypt going all the way back to 1994, which I believe is when the card first appeared. In fact, I'm nearly certain of it. And when Manac Crypt first appeared, not everybody probably knows this, but the card was a card that you could acquire by buying a physical book. You'd buy the book. I never read the book, although I guess other people did, but it was set in some Dominaria-inspired universe. And at the back of the book, there was a redemption thing that you could fill out and mail in, and they would mail you back a Manac Crypt, this one with this picture. And people were not that enthusiastic about it, not only one, because it required them to buy a book, and they had to wait for a long time in the mail, but more importantly, Manac Crypt was a balanced card when it was printed. There just wasn't that much stuff to do with it, because you could ramp out something powerful quickly with Manac Crypt, but if it was dealt with, then you had this card sitting around hitting you for an average of 1.5 damage a turn, and lots of decks were aggressive. They'd have Black Vices and Unks of Mishra out, and Copper Tablets and tons of Lightning Bolts and stuff, and you couldn't afford to take tons of damage off your own Manac Crypt, although there was a workaround a long, long time ago, and I actually built an entire deck around it that wound up winning one tournament at Costa Mesa Women's Club, which was kind of the place to play Type 1 way back in the day. And I was exploiting a fact that for a while, artifacts as a global rule said that if an artifact was tapped during upkeep, it would not have any effect on the game. So you could play Manac Crypt, and as long as you tapped Manac Crypt in an area where there was mana burn, of course, and you used the mana from Manac Crypt during your upkeep on something like a Jam-Day Tome or to activate a Disrupting Scepter or something like that, you could actually avoid having to flip a coin. So I built a whole deck around this concept that also I think ran, I might have had 4 copies of Balance in it, to be honest, because the card took forever to be restricted. Either way, 4 Manac Crypts plus 4 Jam-Day Tomes and 4 Disrupting Scepters and Balances was a really fucking degenerate deck, and it laid waste to that tournament. And then very shortly afterward, this Manac Crypt problem was solved by a change to the rules, and the card was basically nerfed to say that you couldn't just tap it during your upkeep to shut it off. But in Commander, it doesn't even matter, because the card is balanced around 20 life, and when you have 40 life to play with, this thing does an aggregate average of 0.75 damage to you every turn. That's actually what it's balanced around, because everything in Commander is halved, and a card that deals less than 1 damage to you per turn when it accelerates you 2 turns in the game is beyond broken. And I've long said that this is the most powerful card in Commander, and I'm sure that if you were to look at a giant matrix of Commander metadata, if you could somehow go and look at the results of the last, 5 billion games of Commander played across the whole globe, and you look at a correlational relationship between a turn 1 Manac Crypt and the person winning the game, I'm sure it's more impactful than probably any card in the entire format. Even more impactful than Sol Ring, despite the fact that it has a quote-unquote drawback, because the drawback just simply doesn't matter. Manac Crypt allows you to accelerate your commander, to accelerate your game plan, to do totally insane things like playing turn 1 Grand Arbiter Augustin and stuff. Things that just lock, or turn 1 Minsk and Boo so trivially to just lock your opponents out of the game instantaneously. The card is way too good historically and has become obscenely powerful as a consequence of the incremental mana creep in the format, which brings me to this stupid thing. The Jeweled Lotus. When I saw this card in the spoiler, I did not get excited. I rolled my eyes. And I just thought, you know what, this is just a bridge too far. We already solved Black Lotus in 1993. And by 1994, when people were able to get multiple Black Lotuses into their deck and into their collection, they were able to build degenerate decks that just trivialized everything that Magic is about, like deck building and strategy. Why on earth did they print a Black Lotus for a format where you start with a specific card in your command zone every single game? And that card can be, again, something like Grand Arbiter Augustin, or any number of degenerate commanders that cost 3 to 4 mana. How about Minsk and Boo? How is this card balanced with a card like Minsk and Boo in the format? You have Minsk and Boo on turn 1. Oops, I destroyed it. Let me bring it back there. Jeweled Lotus. I just want it to die. So there it is again. Totally insane mistake to ever print this. I can't even imagine what the conversations were like at R&D when somebody proposed, hey, what if we put Black Lotus into Commander? And I don't know, maybe they went to the high-ups at Wizards and they said, hey, we want to print Black Lotus. It's on the reserve list, but if we make it Commander only, then everyone will want to buy it. We'll make sure that it has a really beautiful picture too, and it does have really nice art. It's very attractive. It's like the kind of thing that anybody, male or female of any age, would be interested in putting in their collection. But the problem is that you can't have a balanced format for any player's experience when it has Black Lotus in it, particularly not when there are commanders that can kind of win the game for you within a couple of turns when they're cast from the command zone on turn 1. How on earth this made this through the R&D gauntlet is beyond me, but I remember looking at this card and feeling like something had fundamentally changed about how the game that I love is being created. It really did feel like a bridge too far, and it was honestly kind of just a symptom of a broader design problem at Wizards of the Coast, which we have all talked about extensively. Maybe I haven't talked about it enough on this channel, but I should in the days ahead, because as somebody who's been playing Magic for over 30 years, I have kind of been considered a bit of a thought leader in this space, and I haven't really lent my 2 cents to some of this ridiculous power creep that's going on for the sake, of course, of dollars. That Hasbro is being propped up by Wizards of the Coast. Wizards of the Coast is it's like the Atlas that has all of Hasbro on its back now, because people don't buy toys anymore, not really traditional toys. And Hasbro made billions and billions and billions of dollars in the last 40, 50, 60 years selling toys to children. Now they're selling digital toys to children, and they only really have one good, successful digital product, as far as I know, which is Magic. So they're leveraging it as much as possible, trying to bleed it for every last dollar. And people have been voting for that by investing in things like Jeweled Lotus. I've been reading accounts online of people complaining about how their collection got ravaged. I can't believe that Wizards would do this. I can't believe that the rules committee would do this, is what they probably mean. I can't believe that Wizards would somehow print a card that might get banned, and yet I have 5 copies of it because I'm required to put it in all of my decks in my playgroup, and I don't want to swap one Lotus between all my decks. And now I'm pissed off that my, whatever it was, $85, $90, $100 card just got bricked to be worth basically nothing, because Jeweled Lotus doesn't actually have any place in Magic anymore once it's banned. Unlike Manac Crypt, which still you can play in vintage decks and stuff. I guess Manac Crypt is also legal in formats like Canadian Highlander. But Jeweled Lotus has no place, and that honestly is where it belongs, in the dustbin of design history as far as I'm concerned. I do not feel pity for people who lost a bunch of money because they owned a bunch of Jeweled Lotuses. Incidentally, I'm among them. I think I have like 5 or 6 Jeweled Lotuses, which I had to buy to put in all my decks, because how are you going to play a competitive game of Commander without a Black Lotus in your deck? That's stupid. So I'm glad that they banned this fucking thing, and I hope that it sets a precedent going forward, that the community and the people who are responsible for curating the community ban list that they're accountable to a community of literally millions and millions of people, that they send a message to Wizards of the Coast. No more Jeweled Lotuses, no more Mana Crypts, no more Minsk and Booze, or any of the other toxic bullshit stuff that keeps getting printed in order to make Hasbro more money. They are desecrating the game that we all love and degrading the experience of everybody who plays and enjoys Magic. That's just the truth of it. And I've been playing this game for 30 years. I've been playing it for 30,000 hours or more. I consider it a part of my identity. And watching my identity desecrated and exploited for financial gain hurts me, and it hurts everybody else. So if they make another Black Lotus, guys, if you're out there in the audience and you hear this, if they make another Jeweled Lotus, refuse to buy it. Refuse to play with it. Tell your local game store that to have a house ban against it so that the rules committee doesn't even have to intervene. And maybe they'll get a fucking message that if you destroy this game for profit, you destroy it for everyone, and it will be irreparably damaged. So again, Mana Crypt gone, Jeweled Lotus gone. That stupid bird, Nadu, gone. Dockside Extortion is gone. I hope that they continue this trend and they kill a couple of other outliers in the format as well. I would love to see Minsk and Boo gone, not just from 1v1, but from the game. It has no place in Magic. And certainly the stupid Thassa's Oracle thing should be gone as well. Rant kind of over. At some point when I have the time and energy, I'm going to go and try to deal and address the rules committee. I am friends with Scott Larrabee, who sits on the rules committee, but I just haven't had the time to devote to doing it because I haven't been engaged in Magic very much. But I do understand that a lot of people are very passionate about this and care a lot about it. I still do too. I will do my part, and I'm glad that this happened, and hopefully it's a start of good things to come. It actually makes me a little excited about playing the format again. You'll notice we've got Pyroblast and Red Elemental Blast in the main deck over here. So I'm going to be playing some games with Bullseye, I think, in this brave new world and see what happens. Hopefully those games produce some videos for the site. So look forward to those, and I will be back soon. Thanks for listening to my rant, and of course, for both watching and supporting the channel. Take care.